Hello, everybody. So, of course, I've been grinding out the new Fellowship season as Ardeos, and came across an interesting build. So, I got the Frog Cloak Legendary, the big toad one, from doing Sithral's Fall. When you first complete Sithral's Fall, which is the Paragon 7 capstone, you get a guaranteed legendary. So, that was how I got this first legendary. I was testing out some frog builds, even though my stats suck, and somebody recommended doing a frog plus fireball build, and so that is what I'm currently doing. We're running Power of Oblivion Frenzy, Rain of Fire, Great Balls of Fire, and Frog Squad, and all that good stuff. And it's actually doing pretty crazy damage. Now, our stats, again, are not very good. Like, our gear's not optimized at all. We don't have, like, good tier sets or gems or anything. And frogs are still doing crazy damage. Like, frogs are... Yeah, I think I hover over there. In that pack, frogs were 25% of our overall. I think by the end of the dungeon, fireball and frogs tend to be about the same. Maybe around, like, 20 to 25%. And so... just having both of those, like, damage profiles is really nice. Sometimes you just won't get your Rain of Fire procs for a bit. Here we get one, and we get to blow up packs. But, you know, in the meantime, you have frogs constantly spawning. You know, as you get more crit, they'll spawn even more. But, yeah, this has been really fun. I was not actually expecting a frogs and a fireball build to be good, like having them both in one build. But this is proving to be quite good. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you don't have the legendary, the frog legendary, because then I don't think frogs are worth it. If you don't have the frog legendary, I'd recommend just going like a pure fireball build, or if you want to have some fun, I'd recommend checking out the Engulfing Flames build and trying some of that stuff. I think overall Engulfing Flames is not really that great from what I've seen. Like, obviously, there's a ton of room for stuff to improve, but just for, like, the early leveling, I did test it out a bit, like Champion and Paragon, just because I wanted to test it out, and it was fun. You do a lot of damage to one mob, but I think it just hasn't had time to scale yet. It's sort of the main thing. And I also think the legendary for that is like super important as well. So mainly I would see Engulfing Flames being good on like a stone skin dungeon, because then you can just nuke down one mob. I have played it on those before, and I've gotten, even with like this kind of bad gear so far, I've gotten like 7 Engulfing Flames on one target. If you had the legendary for Engulfing Flames, you would be doing so much damage, extra damage there. And also here you can see we're doing a crazy pull here. We're sending our ult. We're bursting up to like 325k here. We're spawning a ton of toads. You can just see, I mean, the toads are really obvious. They're massive. We're getting Rain of Fire procs. We're just nuking the entire pack. So yeah, Ardeos still insane at AoE. Like, absolutely crazy damage. I mean, 300k burst on this pack. I mean, we don't have the Shadow Colossus. We did send our ult there, but this is not a Shadow Colossus dungeon, at least not on this difficulty. So we don't have that buff. It's just kind of raw, just raw damage. Yeah, this pack a little bit slower, but overall, this build, the only, like, main weakness of this is the single target, because we're not taking Undying Flames, which means our Engulfing Flames is worse, so our single target's kind of eh. I'm not really a huge fan of the single target rotation with this build. I mean, the AoE is super fun, but it does kind of feel bad in single target because you don't really get to do that much. That's where I think the Engulfing Flames build would be really fun. Like if you have a dungeon with really tough bosses, like maybe Sithral's Fall or something, which tends to have smaller pulls, and, you know, really hard bosses. Maybe that's going to be different this season, but that's how it tends to be. You know, if you get like a stone skin Sithril's Fall, you can run Engulfing Flames build and just funnel into everything with the legendary. But yeah, this Fireball Firefrogs build has been really strong so far. Mainly, we're kind of just looking out for our Rain of Fire procs. Ideally, you don't want to be sitting on a charge of Fireball with this build. Now, it depends on like how the pack's going, and if you're like saving for the next pack, then you might not want to just send it. But when Rain of Fire procs, it gives you back a charge of Fireball. And so if you have a charge already and you're like 15 seconds towards the next one, then when it procs, you're going to be wasting those 15 seconds worth of progress. Because it'll just refund, you know, half of the cooldown that's left. But if you're sitting on 0 charges and it refunds, then you get a full charge back. And this does mean, like, if you kind of send fireballs, like, really quickly, then you will kind of get into some situations where you just don't have any fireball charges, because sometimes you will get unlucky. Rain of Fire is a procs per minute thing, so it's normalized pretty heavily. Like, you can kind of predict when you're going to get a proc, if you haven't had one in a while, and you haven't detonated in a while, maybe. So I try not to detonate at, like, the end of packs, because I want to save it going into the next pack. But sometimes you'll get unlucky. Like, I think this dungeon, I got a few Rain of Fire procs in the first pack, but I've also had dungeons where I get 0 Rain of Fire procs in the first pack. It's kind of weird starting out, so. This was a super easy dungeon. We pulled 86k overall with, you know, whatever gear we have. I think we're like 260 item level. Yeah, you can see there we have 22% Fireball, about 20% Fire Frogs on our overall. And yeah, I mean, this build's really good as you get the Frogs legendary. If you get the other legendaries, I probably wouldn't go Frogs until you have enough crit and haste, but if you do get this legendary, you don't even need that much crit and haste to make it work. Like, my gear is not anything special here. So, yeah. That was a nice little grind out on the Sailor's Abyss, getting some gear. Sailor's 1 is pretty easy, so, yeah. Once maintenance ends, we'll probably start to grind some more actual difficult content, or maybe we'll just keep grinding Sailor's 1 again, who knows. But yeah, I will see you guys later.